All right, joining us now is Home Depot co-founder Bernie Marcus. Bernie, it's always a treat to get some time with you. Thanks for doing this, and congrats on the new book here, Kick Up Some Dust, Lessons on Thinking Big, Giving Back, and Doing It Yourself. Where'd you come up with that name for the book?
Well, it's what the whole book is about. The fact that you can pick up some dust, you can make things happen, and leave the world a better place. And the whole part of the book is that two things. Number one, I want people to understand that capitalism is alive and well. Capitalism is the reason that Home Depot is successful, and all the things that I have done because of Home Depot are because of the capitalist system. Raising money in the market, we were totally undercapitalized. We had no money and nowhere to go, but we were able to sell stock to shareholders and build the company piece by piece by piece. And today, it's one of the largest companies in America, and I think has a capitalization only second to Walmart in the retail business, maybe higher. But you know, with every day with what's going on in the stock, it's hard to find. But it's remained to be a really hot company, a great company. 500,000 associates in the United States, Guam, Hawaii, Mexico, Canada, and all the things that they do in their stock, how well the stock has performed, has allowed me to do all the things that I want to do. Now, there are many people out there that have enormous amounts of wealth, and they don't know what to do with it. They come to us. Jay, who's on the line with us, they sit down with us and say, we have all this money, we have all the toys, we want to do something, tell us what to do. And we try to teach them that put their minds into it. The same brains that created their wealth can create good things for society. And you take a guy like Mike Milken. Mike Milken he was one of you guys. He was a Wall Street guy. What did he know? He had prostate cancer. And when he had prostate cancer, fatality rate was 50%. And he said, I'm gonna take this on. Well, who the hell is he to take on, when great scientists, researchers, but he did. And he used his brains, he uses his intellect, he uses his entrepreneurship, and he put together teams of people. And today, they have brought the fatality rate from 50% down to 5%. Now that's amazing. That's a guy who knew nothing about medicine. So my lesson to everybody is there are things you can do. There are things we did in this book that tell you you don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to be a researcher. You don't have to be a doctor. And in solving education, you don't have to be an educator. And certainly you don't have to be a Wall Street guru to figure out what the hell is going on. So my thing is get off your back, do something good for the world, make yourself a better person, and you'll get more appreciation out of what you do than if you have good earnings every quarter. Believe me, it's much more when you save a life.
Bernie, I love the stories you shared in here. I've followed your story and your career since I was in college, but I found things I didn't even know. I didn't know you wanted to be a doctor. Didn't know you had a dozen jobs by the age of 15. I didn't know you were even in a gang. As you look back, are you just like, wow, I can't believe I did all these things.
I'm a bad guy. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey. It was a tough environment, and we were very, very poor, and we lived in a very tight community. It was a tough, crime-ridden community, and survival taught me I had to either be in a gang or get killed. So I joined a gang, and I stayed at the gang for several years until one day I just moved out. It's the same thing that there are great stories like this for other people in the book uh, uh, that I tell,
Mhm.
but I did want to get into medical school. It was something I wanted all my life, and I couldn't get in. I realized, and looking back now, you know, at 93 years of age, I spent most of my life looking ahead, never looking back. But I never realized how much anti-Semitism there was in this country when I grew up. Having been born in 1929, I lived through the 40s and the 50s and the early 60s, and you couldn't get into medical school. They had a quota system. Only 10% of Jews were allowed in medical schools, and it was almost every medical school in the United States. And that was my dream. And I must tell you that it was the biggest shock of my life the day I found out I couldn't get in unless I came up with $10,000. My entire family, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, nobody, if we could not put together $10,000. And so I quit school and went to look for a new life for myself, which I eventually found.
I will say
Retail,
yes,
retail.
yes, you absolutely did. And I didn't realize this. The last time we talked to you was about maybe 2 years ago, really before the pandemic took off. But now we're here in 2022. Interest rates are going up. Inflation is still stubbornly high. And these were the conditions, I'm thinking back, that were in place when you founded Home Depot in 1979. Are you surprised we're back here? And how does this end up for our economy?
Well, you know, they say if you don't read history, you don't know history. We're right back where we started. And we opened up during the Jimmy Carter days, and inflation was 20%, interest rates was 20 some odd percent, and people were struggling. Manufacturers were struggling. We opened up in the middle of this, and fortunately, because of the capital market, we had cash. So we had to pay our vendors ahead of time. We paid vendors the day they deliver the product, which is uncalled for. I mean, it just doesn't happen, but we want to keep them in business. And I can tell you, there are hundreds of manufacturers who are major manufacturers today that we kept in business those days by paying our bills quickly so that they had the cash to buy product to keep their people working. And it was not an easy time, but here we are all over again. We don't learn a lesson. Inflation is killing us. People are struggling. You know, a gallon of gas versus putting food on the table is not a place you want to be. But our customers now have that. It's unfortunate. We just don't learn. Just don't learn.
Do you feel as though the economy, does it feel like the same economy that it did back in 1979?
Well, it was easier. It was easier now to fix it than it was then. Carter didn't have the tools. You know, he had all these people kept captive in Iran. He had OPEC really against him. And if you remember, oil and gas rationing was pretty horrible. You had numbers and you couldn't get gas if you didn't have a certain number. Well, you know, we have a president that just doesn't believe in that. We're sitting on tons of oil and gas, and he doesn't allow us to drill. It's basically stupid. I can't come up with another word. It's stupid. And we will continue to suffer this inflation, and our people will continue to struggle with high prices as long as he maintains this facade of climate control versus allowing us to do the things that we should be doing. I don't know. People live on a different planet, I think. I feel one day I wake up in the morning and I say, where the hell are they coming from? I don't understand it. Why are they defending not drilling when in fact climate change you could put off over a period of time and do it over the next 30 years, 40 years, and do it intelligently, but not slam down on it and kill everybody today. So It's hurting everybody today. Not good.
I know you're a big free market guy, Bernie. I mean, that's how you created or helped create Home Depot. You mentioned capitalism a couple minutes ago. Do you think capitalism is under attack in this country?
Oh, yes, it's under attack in universities. Um, you have professors who are socialists. We're teaching it to the young people, and we had a poll at one point that was very frightening because it showed that almost 50% of the young people would vote for socialism over capitalism. They just don't know. They get to their hearts, they don't get to their brains. And unfortunately, we have a whole group of people growing up today where they think in terms that socialism is good for America, whereas in fact, capitalism is what puts food on the table, what's allowed people to grow, allow people to develop economics independence, and they don't get it. When they get it, it's like so many friends of mine say that their kids were socialists up until they got their first job and they took all that money out of their paycheck to pay taxes. And all of a sudden they became capitalists. So that may be the story.
How does the country get out of this, Bernie?
Vote with your brain and not your heart.
Interesting. Let's focus a little bit more back on the book. How could, in this climate where we're seeing the economy under so much pressure, where does that leave small businesses? You are a champion of small businesses. When I walk into Home Depot, sure, we have the big vendors there, but there are still a lot of small businesses in a Home Depot. What's the state of small business in this country?
Very bad, very bad. You can't find people to work because the government is giving people money not to work. And it's very hard to run a business when you can't produce product. The biggest problem is, can they produce product? And we're finding they can't produce product. That's number one. Number two, they have the energy crisis that's facing them. They have to ship product. Everything has to be shipped. And ship means gas and oil. And when the price of gas and oil is so high, it reflects on your prices and eventually puts you in a position where you're not competitive anymore. And eventually it gets back to the consumer. And will the consumer pay that price? And if the consumer doesn't pay that price, you're not selling your product. It's a wild story. In addition to that, the small businessman has so many regulations that they have to deal with. I could not be a CEO today. I mean, I was a successful CEO for like 20 some odd years. Hell, I wouldn't go near it today with any amount of money. It's gonna be crazy.
Do you think you could create Home Depot in this environment?
I don't think so. I think if we had the regulations then that we have today, Home Depot would be a chain of 12 stores. I just don't think we could have grown. I mean, the HR, the hiring practices, all of the restrictions that they put on you, the SEC, every SEC, FTC, LSC, all the alphabets, all put pressure on small businesses, and they're killing them. And small businesses can't fight back. They don't have the people in Washington, and they don't have what the big companies have, including Home Depot. They can't fight for what's right, and they get picked on. And members of Congress just vote along with it because, well, it sounds good. This sounds good, but they don't run businesses. And most of the people in Washington never ran a business. You have a president never worked a day in his life. Never worked a day in his life. What the hell does he know about economics? But he sure spouts about it a lot. But he doesn't. And running a business, hiring people, training people, being able to produce a product, this takes a certain skill. And you have to understand that skill. And just running a small pizza restaurant, for Christ's sakes, takes skill. And they're getting pummeled day to day. And I know we do as much as we can. We had started something called Job Creators Network, which represents small businesses. And we're fighting on the Hill every day to beat some of these regulations. And some we win, some we lose. But there's nobody out there that really puts the time and effort into it.
Bernie, just a couple more before we let you go. You are known to be one of the biggest philanthropists in this country, a tremendous giver away of your wealth, and you've been doing this for many years. Is the Giving Pledge still the gold standard in this regard?
Say, what do you mean by that?
Is that still, in light of what we heard from Patagonia's founder, where he's giving away essentially his whole company, is something like that the best model? Is the Giving Pledge a best model? Or what you've been doing, I would say, could be a good model too.
Well, our model is to do this, to invest in things that we think will have a real positive outlook and actually help society. For instance, right now we're working on post-traumatic stress for military people and civilians. You watched this thing with, what was his name, the football player that just got knocked out in Miami?
Yes.
You know there's no treatment for that. There's no treatment. We have a treatment that started in Denver, Colorado, and it's treating traumatic brain injury. And we have the data that shows that it works. We are trying to open hospitals around the country that will be able to treat the veterans free of charge, first responders, firemen, policemen, all people that are suffering with traumatic brain injury. And we're hoping that that becomes a protocol in the United States. We saw another football player yesterday struggling with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and they have to have a place to go. So we are looking for other philanthropists to come aboard with us and help us open hospitals around the country. And we are. We're interviewing 3 more hospitals. We have 6 in the fold right now. We have Jefferson, we have Tulane, we have North Carolina, Chapel Hill, we have Operation Share in Atlanta, we have University of Jacksonville. So, but we're looking for others to fill in the places. And we have the data that shows that it works. So we're hoping to make a big change. These are the things that we're doing at the Marcus Foundation. We're putting money where it actually will help people and will help them survive and give them a better life.
Well, I think what you have done over the decades, this is absolutely tremendous. We'll leave it there for now. Home Depot co-founder Bernie Marcus. I encourage everyone to get this book. It's just an awesome read. Kick up some dust. Lessons on thinking big, giving back, and doing it yourself. Bernie Marcus, always a real treat to get some time with you. Thank you for joining Yahoo Finance.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.